Hi, this is Brenda Thompson. I am the host of Just Show Up. This is the podcast where we talk to real estate agents at all phases of their real estate career and really try to get the stories of how you got started, a little bit about your real estate journey, any issues or concerns that came up along the way that you maybe didn't know about even, and just really what helped to shape your career overall. So today we have with us Denton Aguam, and I'm so happy you could join us today. So thank you, Denton, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brenda. I really appreciate you having me on today. Hopefully, I can bring some insight to everybody.
It's always fun to hear people's journeys and where they've come from
Right.
and, what led you into real estate. For a lot of us, real estate was not our first career. And so, what kind of led you to real estate and maybe some surprises along the way too. So tell us a little
Sure.
bit about your journey.
Yeah, wow. I got lots of those, lots of surprises, lots of things I've learned. Well, let me go back to the beginning. My specific case is this was my first career. I was in 2002, graduated from Baylor and one, and wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I originally, to go even deeper, was studying to be a doctor.
Okay.
Both my parents were doctors, or my dad was a doctor, mom was a nurse. I changed my major my junior year without telling my parents, and I told them that I
That might have
changed
been
my
a
major.
frightful story right there.
Yeah, we won't go into that story. That's for a different talk. But I didn't tell them until towards the end of my graduation when I got close to graduating. But nevertheless, I was with another set of friends. He was a commercial realtor in Austin, Texas, a big commercial guy. And my fraternity brother and I were traveling with his family. And it was a Thanksgiving on the Riverwalk, actually, right around Thanksgiving time. And he goes, "Hey, Denton, you know what? Go get your real estate license. Go work residential real estate in Dallas. And if you like it, keep doing it. If you don't, move to Austin and I'll teach you the ropes of commercial." And at 21 years old, I was like, that's a good plan. That's a good plan. So I ended up joining a real estate firm here in Dallas, and it didn't go so great the first 6 months. I sold 0 homes. My parents told me to go get a real job. Now, this is 2002, roughly, right around there. Didn't sell many homes, didn't know what I was doing. Well, I ran into another fraternity brother of mine. So thank God for Baylor, right? University. And he was at a title company. And he goes, "What are you doing, Denton?" I go, "Well, I'm trying this real estate thing out, but it's not working out really well." In my 7th month of real estate, and said, "Denton, stop doing all this and do this." I'm like, "Okay, I'll do it."
A little
And the
bit of
next six
a
months, I sold about,
focus, right?
yeah, I did about two and a half, $3 million in business that next 6 months.
That's great.
And it was great. I was just like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." Right. And so that was '02 going to '03. And I was an individual agent for quite some time, for about 10 years before I really took the next step of my journey, which was starting to build a real estate team. Now, some things happened in between there, but really that was it, the start of my career. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to grow up and be a real estate agent. It was kind of by happenstance. And I was lucky to be around some great fraternity brothers that directed me the right direction. And I started my real estate career in '02.
That's great. So that's been a few years. You have had
Yeah.
some journeys along the way, I'm sure.
Lots of stress.
I understand that. 2002 is when I got my license as well. So,
Yes.
yes, I understand that. So tell us a little bit about through that journey, maybe some of the
Yeah.
early on surprises. I'm sure that that first six
Sure.
months of not having a sale was the first surprise, but
That's right.
not that uncommon. And I think that that is something that a lot of new agents don't
Sure.
understand. I talk with a lot of agents about, well, we saw it on this TV show and it's not quite like that,
That's right.
but it is something that is a commitment. It is starting your own business. It is a commitment to build it and grow it.
Right.
And that doesn't mean for everyone that it is business that happens quickly. Six
That's right.
months is actually quite average. Pretty normal. So, what else along the way was a surprise or something that, you kind of had to learn through journeying through it?
Yeah. So those first 6 months, I was kind of doing everything. I was kind of scattered. I was sending mailers out. I was doing open houses every now and then. I got a referral that I didn't get. It was my first listing presentation. Knowing now what I know today, absolutely bombed it. Where I
Each
made the
one of
switch in that
those
early on.
we learn from.
Yeah, yes. What I realized is the intensity or the focus I had in each one of those was pretty low. So I stopped doing all that as Georgia told me to do, and I focused solely on my sphere.
Okay.
Right. Now, my sphere was just coming out of college. I was like, well, no one's going to own a home or buy a home because they're just coming out of college. But she really taught me how to get business out of my sphere through maybe their family and friends. And
All
so I
right.
started getting business out of there. Then she also taught me how to get business out of my hobbies or interests. So I played baseball at Baylor. So I
Okay.
went and did the Baylor Alumni Association. I went and helped run softball teams. I went to different various events. And next thing I know, I'm helping everybody in the softball league buy and sell their homes, right? If that makes sense. So I made a huge dent there. The first 7 to 8 years of my career, I was almost exclusively by referral only. I had even adopted the Brian Buffini method, who's still around, but I went
Uh-huh.
and hired a coach from the Brian Buffini coaching program and did nothing but build a business based off referral. And I did
Good.
that for about 7 years. My best year as an individual agent was about 55 homes in 2009. And that only equated to about $11 million in volume because the price point was only about 200K.
To those of us who were around in 2009, remember what happened then, and one, kudos to you for doing that many homes that year because that
Yeah.
was for a lot of people, it was not a great year. You had a great year for
No.
volume, but we also know that the prices were coming down during that time.
Yeah. With me and an assistant. And I would say that year was probably the biggest game changer in my life. I
Mhm.
call it the best of times, the worst of times. So let me
Mhm.
share with you what was going on personally. My dad had been battling cancer the previous 5 years.
Wow,
In
I'm sorry.
2008, it had come back. It was leukemia. And so he was an older father. So in '08, we kind of had to make some decisions as a family. I have two older sisters, an older brother and a younger brother, and then my mom, of course. And because he is an older father and hasn't really recovered from the previous chemo treatment, the chemo treatment required to get rid of the current cancer in '08 was so much, it would kill the cancer, but it probably would kill him too. So we moved them down to Rice Village in Houston and made sure he never spent the night alone in the hospital, made sure that he was taken care of, and made sure that we prolonged his life as long as he could. So he actually passed November 13, 2009, the same time I did had my best individual agent career. So that's why I call it the
Okay.
best of time, worst of time. Now,
Yes.
what had happened that year is I focused tremendously on my family and my business. About Friday at noon, I would drive down to Houston, spend as much time with him, spend a night in the hospital so my mom would have her break, and drive back Sunday night and then focus on real estate for 4.5 days. And
Okay.
still, we're lucky and blessed to sell 55 homes. But my mentor at the time, a gentleman named David, he was losing his father too, oddly enough. And he
Yeah.
said, Denton, all you got to do is spend as much time with him as you can. Take care of your business, take care of your clients, and then spend every second with them you can. And I did that.
Wise
But
advice.
during that time, I had a lot of reflection. From 2010 to 11, I wasn't sure if I wanted to stay in this business. I think, well, was burned out. So I was 10 years in, was doing okay, young kid, making some decent money. By the way, wasn't good with my money back then.
Mhm.
Wasn't taught really well how to manage my finances.
Mhm.
But in 2010, 11, my business went backwards and I almost got out of business, right? I almost hung him up and said, maybe I got to do the corporate world.
And sometimes I hear that too, because those years or those months, even that you are the most busy, can create burnout, can leave you with burnout,
That's
can leave
right.
you with, gosh, I am just tired. I need a break. And all of a sudden we think that everything else might be an easier job. And that's not the
That's right.
case either.
And I was single. I didn't have a family, so I knew I could make a more drastic move with my finances if I needed to before I was really physically responsible to starting a family and getting married and all that stuff.
So what kept you around in real estate? What was the turning point?
2011, I went to one of my events and I see Gary Keller talk about expansion. And I also had a coach named Tony DeSilla who I attribute a lot of my stuff to. I actually had him coach me in 2009 when I was doing all my business. He was the number one coach in the world. I found this out. He coached the number one agent in the world. I can't remember the woman's name, but she was doing about 1,400 sides at the time.
Wow.
Right now, today in today's world, that's still a ton of business, but there's a lot of people doing that, from what I can tell. I actually, to sidebar, called Tony DeSillo every day for almost 3 weeks straight until he coached me. Left a voicemail every single day for like 21 days straight.
Persistence.
He didn't coach me right off the bat. He referred me to one of his coaches because he was so sought after. But then about 6 months later, one of his coaching clients ended up getting out of coaching with him. And his assistant, Mindy, called me and go, hey, Denton, Tony Norland doesn't do this, but one of his spots opened up. He's got a wait list, but he remembers who you are. If you want it, you have it. I'm like, done. I'll take it. And his coaching fee was not cheap, but I didn't care. I was like, I'm going to be on a path of learning from the best. And that's a kind of a trait that is I founded myself to be true throughout the last 20 plus years is I'm very big on learning and growing and figuring out what's the best that can be done, not the best that I can do, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
I do.
back to 2011, I see Gary talk about expansion and I said, you know what? I'm going to go back at this and I'm going to build a team and then I'm going to expand that team across the Metroplex. 2012, I hired a buyer's agent. which is the wrong thing to do. You should hire administrative person people first, right? I did it incorrectly. So if you're watching this, hire admin first and then the buyer's agent. But either way, I hired a buyer's agent and we started building a real estate team really big on sales. So in 2012, we got back to that $15 million mark. And then the next 5 years in 2017, I think I got to 50 million in sales,
Okay.
right?
Awesome.
And so we were doing really well, but then we hit a ceiling because it was a lot of great sales, but it was extremely messy behind the scenes. Because again, I hired a salesperson, not an operational person, which the
And
first
not
three
all
hires,
salespeople are great operational people.
no, I'm not operational at all.
That goes again for any industry though too. That's a statement that
That's right.
follows through with any industry. It's not just real estate. Not all great
Yeah,
salespeople are great operational paperwork people.
that's right. That's
Some
right.
are, but
But we
a
still
lot
did.
need help.
That's right. We still did like 200 sales that year in 2017, so it was great. It was
Mhm.
really good. But I realized I hit a ceiling, and I call them kind of ceilings of achievement. And I had to rework things or kind of reimagine the business. And it took a second because some people weren't on board. In 2020, another mentor of mine named Ben, he kind of challenged me on a few things. And actually, it was 2019, right before COVID hit. And from 2017 to 2019, things are still going well. We're still doing 50, $60 million in sales, but I can't really push through the that mark I want to go to. 2019, he challenged me on a few things, and of course, as we all know, 2020 hit, and everybody was in this COVID world,
Everything was
and
different.
everything was different. It was the blessing that I found was I actually slowed down to think about what I wanted my life to be over the next 5 years, right? Or 10 years. So I started redoing the business again and had hired new operational people and restarted the company again. And it was tough because we had a lot of people that didn't want to change. They liked the way it was going. We
Mhm.
made some changes. And now today I've got about 20 people on the team. We did over 70 million, 70 plus million last year. So over 2 million GCI. And now our goal is to get to that $100 million mark, right?
Awesome.
To push through there in that time frame too. Over the last 2 years, I call them kind of father figures, a gentleman named Mike Brody and Dick Dillingham. They've kind of helped raise me over the
Know
last
them
20 years
both?
in this business. Yep. Well, Dick decided to get out of the business and he sold me his shares. So 2 years ago, I bought his shares out. So he's still mentoring me and teaching me things. And I've got a new vision and path for the market center. So I've kind of got two roles today: the real estate team, the Dare Network, which I'm still pushing, and we still got some great things and big things ahead of us and still
Uh-huh.
want to expand. And then now I also am pushing the market center into what I believe the future of a real estate brokerage is. And we have about 300 agents there.
Good.
So that's kind of the last 20 plus years in some type of like crushed timeline
Uh-huh.
with a lot of failures in there, Brenda, a lot of failures in there.
Well, and a lot of I hear you talk about self-reflection and looking at your
Yes.
business and deciding to rework things. And just like you said, so often people get kind of stuck in the way things are and not getting out of their comfort zone to reevaluate and to look at things of what needs to be changed. And you and I haven't even talked yet about what we're seeing in today's market with the
Sure.
advancement of technology and AI and all of the things that
That's right.
some of the things we love and some of the things that I'm sure all of us feel the momentary trepidation of change, but we are all experiencing change now. But I hear you talk about embracing change
That's
and
right.
making
That's
it
right.
work for you.
That's right. Yep. You nailed it.
What would you change if you could?
Mhm.
What would be one kind of pivot that you would do a little bit differently if you had the opportunity early on, especially?
I don't know if I would change much, but I would do one thing drastically different. I would be faster to make the change. So I don't think I could have avoided any of those failures, avoided any of those turbulences or issues, or, obviously dealing with losing your father, and I think instead of, for example, mine, when I lost my dad in November, I kind of was in limbo for 2 years. It's like, yeah, maybe I'll do some real estate here. Not sure what to do. I probably would have sped up that. I wish if I could have figured it out, I would have spread up that process faster, right? When I got to that point in 2019 where Ben wanted to challenge my business, I wish I would have got there faster to think about that. So sometimes as a salesperson, you get going so fast that you get these blinders up and you look
Sure.
up and it's been a year, 2 years, 3 years,
Uh-huh.
and you don't quite make the adjustments or changes that you should have made 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Well, today, of course, I always have blinders on. I feel like I have those blinders taken off a little bit more. That's one reason why Mr. Dillingham knew that I was the right person to pass the torch to, because he was like, look, I fought my battles. It's your turn to go fight the battle. Industry's changing. And as you said, Brenda, things are changing. The biggest
Yes.
difference, they're changing a lot faster than
It
they ever
is
had before, especially with AI.
exponentially faster.
Before it's like, oh, Diana Kokoska, who's another mentor, is like, she changed the viewpoint of a buyer's agent back in Colorado. Like, okay, well, that took some time to change, right? Teams, right? Early 2000s, teams weren't really a big thing in real estate. Oh, teams don't work. That's changed. My friend Ben, who in early 2000s said he was going to sell 100 homes on the internet. Well, a lot of people like, I was sitting next to a guy who's like, that's not going to happen. Well, now we all know almost everything happens on the internet first, right? Well, today that's AI and branding, in my
Yes.
opinion. Everything is going to be AI driven. It doesn't mean AI is going to replace us, but I strongly believe if you're not an AI enabled or AI enhanced agent or business person or even day to day person in your regular life, you're going to get left behind pretty quickly.
Mhm.
What it's doing with my team, changing just our SOPs, our scripts, our dialogues, our systems and models to be more efficient and more effective is absolutely astronomical on how fast we're getting the feedback. So I would say before AI, if I could use his speed. Now today, I can throw something in ChatGPT or whatever it is and get feedback instantly and make changes.
It's funny how fast it can enable you to make those changes too, even if it's a little tweak, throw in there your current process and just say, "What can I
Yeah.
change? What can I make better?" And all of a sudden you have an answer.
And it's even future. I'm doing a joint venture with a good friend of mine, another fraternity brother, and he just sent me before this podcast a chat GPT thing of some stuff that we do in there on joint ventures and how to properly set them up correctly so we
Mhm.
don't worry about all the mistakes the people in the past have made. Right. And it's amazing what it's spitting out. It's absolutely tremendous. Right. So the speed of the information is huge. Now it's still up to me to implement though, because I could be as smart as the books in the library, but if I don't implement anything, it doesn't matter.
And I think that that's exactly it because you and I have watched a lot of training sessions over the years, and I never worry about even like this podcast. I love that agents are willing to come on and talk about what has worked
That's
for
right.
them and what has not, and
That's
what
right.
their greatest tool is, because you and I both know that 100 people can listen to this, and the numbers are far greater, but 100 people could listen to this and all hear the exact same thing, the exact same advice, and maybe two or three will take that and run with it. One may
Right.
take
Not
it
many.
and do something fantastic with it. 95 might say, "That's great, I need to do that," but they don't.
That's right.
There is plenty of business for all of us.
That's what's kept me going is because over the last 20 plus years, the one thing that I have done is taken action and without the fear of failure because I knew I was going to fail. But that's
Mhm.
what kept me where I am.
Good. Okay, so this podcast is Just Show Up. So I always like to ask our guests, what is the one thing that you must always show up for? That no matter what, whether it be your business life or your personal life, what's
Mhm.
the one thing that you need to always show up for?
Ooh, I'll go slightly deep. You got to show up for yourself. We talk about in my team a lot in my brokerage, the trust triangle, and it's based on authenticity, empathy, and logic. And a lot of people want to use logic for trust, but I like looking myself in the mirror. You got to show up for yourself. Like, are you being your authentic self? Are you being honest with yourself? As simple as if you're doing a diet, hey, should you be eating or doing that? Should you be going to the gym? If you're building a business, hey, is that really the best use of your time? If you're working on your budgeting, hey, is that really where you should spend your money? Right. So you really, yes, you got to show up for other people. You got to show up for your clients. You got to show up for your teammates. But at the end of the day, where I've seen the biggest change, right, especially with an Emory podcast, you got to show up for yourself. And a lot of times, that's the hardest person to show up for because you got to look yourself in the mirror.
So true. I love that because at the same time, when you are showing up for yourself, that is really what enables you to show up for other people too. In my opinion,
That's right.
show up for yourself
Of
and that
course.
makes you better, whether it's a better, healthier eater, whether it's a better,
Right.
healthier individual, whether it's a better informed person, no matter what part of it you're talking about it, that's what enables you to be there for other people too.
Well, when I leave here, I got to go be my best father for my two kids, best husband for my wife. And I got to show up
Yes.
for myself so I can show up for them.
Yes. They need you to show up for you so you
That's
can
right.
show up for them.
That's right.
Yes. Is there anything you would like to leave our audience with today? Because this has been a lot of fun.
Oh gosh, I would just say wherever you are in your journey, just know that is where you are. The key is where are you going? Are you still pushing forward? Right? Are you still learning? Are you still going after what you want? Right. So if you're unclear on what your vision is or what you want in your life, then work on that. If you've got your vision but unclear on what to do with it, then go find people that have achieved what you want and talk to them. If you're doing the things that you think are getting to your vision, but you're not getting the results, then go hire somebody to find your blind spots, right? So everybody's in a different part of the journey and we all need help at different parts. You just have to figure out where you are so you can go get that help.
Love it. Love that. Well, Denton, thank you so much. Today has been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey. And Great
Yeah.
tips. Great tips all the way around for our viewers.
All from failures. But thank you so much, Brenda, for having me on. I really appreciate it.
This episode has been sponsored by HomeSmart Stars. Agents, do you feel unseen, unheard? Maybe wish you had better commission? Maybe wish that you were welcomed and encouraged to show up, to just show up as you are and be your true authentic self and have all the training and support and tools to help you thrive in your real estate career? If so, then you need to reach out to HomeSmart Stars and make HomeSmart Stars your home for real estate.